So HRT reports are very similar. You have a fundus picture on top, like you're seeing right here. Fundus image gives you an idea of where the disk is it centered, tells you the quality index in terms of standard deviation, also tells you if it's very good or bad, acceptable, gives you ethnicity. Disk size is given, and you don't have to remember whether it's large, medium, or small. It tells you automatically in parentheses that if it's large, then it tells you it's large. You look at this region right here. The red corresponds to the sloping. The red corresponds to the cupping, blue corresponds to the sloping rim, and green corresponds to the stable rim. Then you go down right here, you see it's divided into sectors, and each sector has a check mark or an X or an exclamation point, essentially telling you if that sector is within normal limits, there's a green check mark. If it's borderline, there's an exclamation point, and if there's an X, there is outside normal limits. You need to write down which sectors are outside normal limits or borderline. If one of these sectors is outside normal limits or borderline, then the Moorfield's regression analysis, MRA, will be outside normal limits. MRA is the most predictive factor in telling you who is suspicious for the disease. Then you go to these parameters right here, and linear cup-to-disk ratio is a parameter that tells you about the cupping of the eye. It's the one number that tells you how much the eye is cupped. If it has a check mark next to it, it essentially means that it's normal, green check. If it has an X, then it's outside normal limits. And an exclamation point would mean that it's borderline. Cup shape measure is one value representation to tell you if the cupping looks like glaucoma or not. A negative value would signify not glaucoma. A more positive value would signify something that is glaucoma-like cupping. The rim parameters, they tell you if the rim area and the rim volume, how much is present. They all have little symbols next to them to tell you if they are normal, so there's no value that you would need to remember. The retinal nerve fiber layer is not very helpful in telling you whether this person is suspicious for glaucoma or not as far as HRT is concerned. The reason why HRT is not very good at measuring nerve fiber layer is because it measures nerve fiber layer just outside the disc. Literally just outside the disc, not further away. And measuring just outside the disc increases the chance of somebody with peripapillary atrophy showing false positive of potential damage. But if you want to learn how is nerve fiber layer represented, it sort of gives you a double hump pattern. You can see that it actually looks like a first hump and the second hump. If it falls within the green, it's normal. If it goes down to yellow, it's borderline. If it goes into red, it's outside normal limits. Mean retinal nerve fiber layer thickness is obvious. Height variation counter is the value that is labeled in nerve fiber layer, but it's actually the representation of the rim tissue thickness as a function of 360-degree plot around the disc. And height variation contour is one value that says if the rim tissue is good or not. Now, I find rim area, rim volume to be much better than height variation contour, as well as mean retinal nerve fiber layer thickness. So retinal nerve fiber layer, I pretty much don't touch when it comes to Heidelberg retina tomograph. Parameters that are very helpful are Moorfield's regression analysis, and rim parameters. Cup parameters are also very helpful in identifying a potential problematic case. If you see a black patch like this, as you're seeing right here, essentially means that the data is not available for that region. That's when you have a black patch. Okay, so if I had to interpret this person is a 72, so 40-ish age. How many years? 42 years old, male. But this was examined a few years ago, so it's a different time. That has average, African American male that has average disc size, left eye, large disc size, right eye. Moorfield's regression analysis is outside normal limits, but before you go to that, you have to say right eye, temporal, right eye, its nasal sector is outside normal limits. Left eye, infranasal and infratemporal sectors. Infranasal sector is outside normal limits. Infratemporal sector and nasal sector are at borderline suspicion of glaucoma. Overall, Moorfield's regression analysis is outside normal limits for both eyes, rim area, rim volume, right eye and left eye are looking suspicious with borderline chances of damage be less than 0.5%, labeled down here. And that's pretty much your analysis for HRT. Okay. So go ahead and interpret one HRT. You can do page number 6, page number 7, whichever you want. But do analyze one, and then we will have to look at OCT.